We're live?
We got to close ranks tonight.
Hey there, I am honored to be here with my favorite brother, Nina Turner.
Your favorite brother?
No, this man.
Okay.
You're my favorite. You're my favorite sister. So I don't want to get into what is Bernie to do and all this horse race stuff. Talk to me about this campaign versus 2016. You were both active in 2016. What are you seeing on the ground and with Bernie himself?
With 2016, he would have beat Trump if the Democratic Party had treated him fairly. He already generated the kind of energy and enthusiasm with a sense of vision and courage that was required at that time. He's doing exactly the same thing thanks to this magnificent sister, this magnificent senator. And this time, the Democratic Party better treat him fairly, and there's no doubt that he is the candidate who can beat Donald Trump.
Amen to that. And Jordan, he doesn't have to contort himself to be anything other than what he is. He has been authentic. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, roll the tape and you hear Senator Sanders saying the same thing, that it is a rotten rigged system and it is rigged against the working poor and barely middle class in this country. And he is the only one that is willing to go head to head with this system and not sell people out.
The word socialism seems to be a boogeyman to the fine people at NBC. I interviewed some Trump supporters yesterday. They're against socialism unless it's for them. They like Social Security. They like the Veterans Administration. Can you kind of talk about, obviously, just gave that big speech. How do we boogeyman socialism? To widen it out to it just means human decency and rights?
Yeah, I mean, that's really what it is about. I mean, when you talk about police force, you talk about firefighters, you talk about clean water coming through your faucets with some Americans. Oh, Lord, I talked about water, Jordan. Don't even get me started on water and all the great work that Jordan's been doing in Flint. But, you know, when you think about Social Security, as you said, Medicare, Medicaid, all of those things, it is about a democratic socialism. It is what the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King talked about when he said that we have rugged individualism for the poor, but socialism for the wealthy. It really just means tilting the system to the people. That's all.
That's exactly right. No, for Brother Bernie, like myself as well, socialism without democracy is political tyranny. He's against tyranny. That's why he's critical of the Soviet Union. That's why he's critical of Cuba and other places. But at the same time, unfettered capitalism without any kind of socialist leveling is economic tyranny. And that's true for poor people. That's true for working people. He's against tyranny per se. And in that sense, socialism signifies fairness, justice, freedom, but for poor and working people.
That's right.
Not just for the well-to-do, not just for corporate elites.
That's right.
Not just for those who have big money and big power and big influence. So socialism should not scare people once we understand what it's all about. It's about fairness, it's about justice, it's about freedom, especially for poor and working people.
It is, Jordan. And I want to add, and it's not just President Trump that is trying to demonize this and scare people. I remember when President Trump, during the last State of the Union, said this country will never be a socialist nation. And I watched as Democrats stood up and cheered on the spawn of the devil against their own colleague, Senator Bernie Sanders. Now, they might not necessarily agree with democratic socialism, but it told you who exactly they were when they stood up around their colleague that they served with, their colleague who's on the front line with them. They did not hesitate to stand up and start clapping for President Donald Trump. So it says a lot about them, too. I want your viewers to know, Dr. West and I want your viewers to know, is that Senator Sanders will never sell them out.
That's right.
That he has a vision for this country and he has courage. And he was the only one in 2016 talking about these issues. If people want to know who won the election last night, it was Senator Bernie Sanders, because his agenda was on full display.
That's true.
And so it's a difference between the copies or the original. And Senator Bernie Sanders is the original.
And real quick, I keep hearing about electability and Joe Biden's Mr. Electable, but he was for NAFTA, he was for TPP, he's for the Patriot Act, he wrote the crime bill, all these things that were a vulnerability for Hillary Clinton in 2016. We got the same thing going, but I hear he's electable. Break it down for me, Brother West.
One, he's not electable. That's what the corporate media is saying, though. But you can't be electable when you have a record tied to such vicious crime bills, when you're tied to white supremacists who you agree with who ought not to use busing or school integration. You agree to every major war. He's not electable. He doesn't have the energy. He doesn't have the enthusiasm, and he doesn't have the capacity to generate that among large numbers of people. He is a milquetoast neoliberal who looks backward with little vision and little courage. We need somebody who's visionary, courageous, can generate energy. It's not a question of age.
That's right.
It's a question of vision, energy, and enthusiasm. That's Brother Bernie. We're just telling the truth.
That's it. And he has a whole movement behind him, Jordan. And I really want people to understand is that the senator believes that he cannot accomplish all of these great things without the people. That's why he says this is not about me, it is about us. And historically, if we look at all great movements, they started because the grassroots bubbled up. He wants a movement that outlasts his candidacy, outlast his presidency. And that is much more than any other candidate wants, because most of these candidates, they just want to win this election for this moment. Senator Sanders is trying to win this election for us in our lifetime and future generations to come. He's a bold visionary that sets the pace in this country, and he is the one whose only special interests are we the people.
That's exactly.
Take me to church. Thank you very much. Wonderful. Whew. I think they're ready. I think they're ready. Thank you, Brother West. Thank you.
Does Dr. West know where to go?
All right, so we got to turn our cameras off to reserve our battery. We're going to be back. We're going to go cover Bernie's watch party since we're not allowed inside. But thank you to Cornel West, Nina Turner. We will be back live in a little bit from the Bernie watch party here in Miami, and stay tuned. And also, like I said, if you're on the fence, statuscoup.com/join. These are the types of people who need a voice, because they're not going to get a voice. They're not going to get a voice in the corporate media. They will get a voice with independent media, as Nina Turner, celebrity over there, being with the people. We'll be with you a little bit later. We got to close down, charge our battery. Again, statuscoup.com/join. statuscoup.com/join. Become a member now. $5 a month, $10 a month, or $179 annually. We are showing you what we're doing. We are here with the people. Peace.